Have you been trying to create a foolproof schedule for your homeschool, but keep finding yourself frustrated because the days keep going off the rails? Do you have everything written down and on paper it all should work, but for some reason it doesn't? Well then, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Brittany, and welcome to Deeply Rooted Home, where I share systems, resources, and routines that are helping me to take my home and homeschool from rushed and overwhelmed to life-giving and rooted in Christ. Today, I'm going to show you why it is almost always a good idea to not stop at just building the schedule and how creating a homeschool checklist could be a simple key to a ton of peace within your homeschool. I do want to start off this by clarifying that if you have not first built a schedule for your homeschool where you have taken the time to learn how long it takes you to get through each subject and sort of put them in a general order based on your kids' ages and the flow of your home life, you might want to start with this video right up here. In that video, I talk all about how to build your perfect schedule within your homeschool in 6 weeks. But if you have already done that work and you have this schedule that theoretically should be working, then you need to start right here. This video is about what to do after that. How do we actually implement this schedule that we've created? Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Brittany, why do I need a checklist when I have a schedule and a planner that tells me what to do? I found that when I was relying on a printed schedule, it actually took a lot of brain power to mentally check off everything that we had already done. And then even more brain power to figure out what still needed to be finished. And with my planner, while it's extremely important for our lesson plans and it's really useful, it's designed more for tracking our work and telling me what to do rather than helping me see when to do it. Now, why don't we start with this checklist and just bypass the schedule completely? Isn't it kind of redundant? Well, not really, because the schedule gives you the ideal flow that you want to see in your day, but the checklist is going to be your facilitator for your schedule. It's going to be a shortcut for you to check in and very easily gauge how far have you come in your day, what's coming next, did you miss anything, and how much longer do you have left in your homeschool day? So after you have a grasp on your schedule and how you want your days to flow, you're going to go into Excel, or you can get fancy and make it in Canva and create a spreadsheet that includes all of your subjects for all of your kids. So here's the key on how to make your checklist a facilitator of your schedule. You are going to keep your checklist in order. Whenever it shows up on your schedule, that's when it's going to show up on your checklist. So if your schedule says you're going to do math from 9 to 10, then history from 10 to 10:30, and then language arts from 10:30 to 11, your list is going to go math, and then history, and then language arts. And when you go to put in your subjects, you're going to do it by kid, not by groups. So for example, you aren't going to just put in math when you have 3 different kids doing math. Each kid is going to have a row for their math lessons. Then you're going to put a checkbox for every day of the week. For subjects that you don't do every day of the week, you can just block off that day for that subject. You can put lines in it or color it out, change the color if you want. I like keeping it all kind of cohesive so that the colors are all the same, but you could do that very easily. We have homeschool group on Tuesday, so it's typically a lighter day for us on Tuesday. I kind of drop some of our subjects on Tuesday. So I just put an NA on the subjects that we aren't going to do that day. I also like to include in my subject boxes any extras that we do with that subject. For example, with math for my younger kids, we do flashcards. And so their math box is going to say math plus flashcards. If you require a narration after assigned readings like I do, include that within their reading box. I like to give each of my kids a color and our group subjects a color as well. I have 4 kids, and so it just makes it a lot easier on me if I can see whose work is whose. Being able to glance at the schedule and instantly know, okay, these 2 kids are done with their reading box, but this kid still needs to give a narration, so that's what I'm going to do next. This is just another way to take some of that mental load off whenever things are starting to get a little crazy, like they kind of do whenever you're homeschooling. And it really just gives your brain kind of the space to breathe a little bit. I personally have found that most of the time, it isn't the big changes that make the biggest difference. It's the tiny little shifts that we make that actually make our days run a whole lot smoother. I also like to make the subject color a few shades darker than the box colors. Again, it just makes it easier to read. It's easier to see the check boxes versus the subject boxes at a glance, which means less mental work for you. Once I have my checklist looking the way that I want it, I print it off, and then I like to use a binder clip and clip it into my homeschool planner. That way I can glance at the lesson plan, like underneath, I can flip it up or I can flip it over and just kind of see, I can easily see what's next on my checklist, but I also have a list of what it is that we are specifically doing, and it's all put together for ease of use. Now, here is one of the most important parts of the checklist. Do not check off a box until everything in the box is complete. So if in your math box for a particular child, you have math plus flashcards and you finish the math lesson, but you don't have time to get to the flashcard, leave it unchecked. This makes for a nice visual later in the day that you weren't able to do everything in that box, so you need to go back and finish it before the school day is over. Or you may also find that you have several days that this box simply doesn't get checked. This is actually very useful to know, since it may mean that you might need to pare something down, or you may need to move it to a different time slot within the day that you're more likely to get it all done. Also, a bonus tip. If you don't like to waste paper, or you just don't want to deal with the hassle of printing every single week, and you know that your schedule is most likely not going to change, then you can always print this list, trim it down, and laminate. Well, you can laminate this list, trim it down, and then use a wet erase marker on it throughout the week. The key is to use a wet erase marker, because a wet erase marker is going to prevent smudging on it. Dry erase, it's going to get smudged as you're doing all of your things. But a wet erase doesn't. And then a little tip I learned a long time ago, you take a laminated sheet that has wet erase marker at the end of a week, and you rinse it under a faucet, and it all comes off. No wiping, nothing. Super simple. Now, me personally, I prefer to print it each week because sometimes things change, especially when we get closer to Christmas and Thanksgiving. I like to add some extra things in. I like to do a lot of stuff around Reformation Day, to do like a whole Reformation Day unit. And so I would want to edit my schedule, my checklist for that week, to have some of the extras added in to make it easier for myself. Oh, I don't have it with me. Hold on. Had to go grab it. Okay. Now, something I did different this year is I actually made checklists for my kids too. And so rather than them having to come up to me and ask, hey mom, what do we still have to do? Or are we done? What do we need to do left? Or what do we have left to do? They can just go and grab their clipboard. And I also put these little pencil things on it so they can keep a pencil on their clipboard at all times, if they will. But they can, theoretically they could. So they have their clipboard, and they can just go and check their list rather than having to come and ask me. I also include all of their chores on their list as well. So it makes it super easy. Everything's in one place, and they can look at their list and see what all is expected of them each day before they can get their screen time in the evening. Now, having these checklists for the kids and for myself and all of this stuff, it does not guarantee that we will never have a hard day. It's not some magic wand that's going to just make everything run smoothly. Life happens. Kids get sick. You get sick. Some days are just hard. Homeschooling is sanctifying work, and it is supposed to push us and challenge us. But I do find that using a checklist in our days really does make them run much smoother most of the time. So thank you for hanging out with me today. If this video was helpful for you, please like and subscribe for more homeschool and homemaking content. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.